What is up, YouTube? We are back with part 2 of my tier list. This one is going to go over mid-tier. As I mentioned in my last tier list, which if you missed the low and bottom tier, you can check it out up here. I think all of these characters are good. At this point, all these characters are good. They're just not as strong as the top tier. So if you think, oh my god, you think this character is mid-tier, that means they're bad. No, every character in this game outside of like the bottom 3 is good. So just before we get into it, that is the baseline that I'm talking about. And again, before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, ring the bell. Let me know who your main is and who you think or where you think they're going to be if they are already not in the low tier one. First character that is going to be the mid tier is King K. Rool. I think I used to have him in low tier. He does have a subpar disadvantage state, but at the same time, the subpar disadvantage state has armor. The problem is his nair is relatively safe. I think it's in theory like -4, -5 or something like that. Let me double check. But the thing is, in order for K. Rool to actually use his nair in disadvantage, he has to do it early because otherwise you're just going to get jumped on jumped at when you're in the air in disadvantage. That is obviously a struggle because that means if you do that and then you fast fall, it's going to be more like -7, -8, and that opens up a lot more opportunities for people to punish you. Whether with shield grab because your jab is frame 4 and your spot dodge is frame 3, or just if they have good out of shield options, a frame 3, 4, 5 aerial, something like that, faster up B or up smash, and that isn't quite good enough. He also has a very exploitable recovery, which isn't good if you just drop down and then hit him, as he's coming up. It's not a good look if you just go close to the stage and then jump back. However, this character does have strengths. His edge trapping is actually really good. Kirby Kid has found spacings that it's very difficult to get around blunderbuss. You just straight up have to wait, which isn't fun, and then he just ends blunderbuss and then can forward air you. This character kills out the ass. Back throw was ridiculous. Up tilt and up smash are ridiculous. He has down throw, which is just a mashing check, and I think it is better than Rob's in terms of getting out of it. It's just Rob's up tilt up air can kill you earlier. This character has a lot of tools. This character has like 3 spikes, has some pretty good edge guarding because he has nair, which has armor, or can just back air you or down air you. Down air goes through the stage. His down tilt can 2-frame, which leads into up air and up smash. This character has a lot of good stuff, just is slightly too bad and disadvantaged to be higher. Just a little bit too difficult of a character to succeed consistently at the top level. Kirby Kid has had really high peaks, but is it consistent? I don't know. One of the definitions of amazing strengths but inconsistent, and that is Richter Belmont, or both of the Belmonts. It is really difficult for the majority of characters to get in on the camping of the Belmonts between forward tilt and side B and down B and neutral B and down tilt and dash back. And like up B out of shield, there are so many options that this character has. However, if you do get in, character struggles. They can't really get off the ledge super well. They can't really recover very well, especially if you have a good option to deal with tethers. The character's disadvantage or getting juggled isn't super good because all he has is like down air to get down, but then you just shield under him and then do it again, and he's gonna run out of stage to down air. So I think it's a real struggle for the Belmonts to land if you just keep the accurate space there. So it's really I cannot let you in ever. It's just a worse version of Min Min, essentially. I think Min Min has the same struggles in terms of, wow, it's scary if people get in, but the Belmonts do that, but then don't have the quite ridiculous strengths of Min Min. So basically, they're just trying to lull you into a sense of security, hit you with a forward smash, or just throw a bunch of stuff at you and hope you don't know how to deal with it, or hope you cannot deal with it by the time the set ends. But this character does have, again, good rep. You have T3 Dom. Dom's amazing. I think there's like a good Belmont player from like somewhere in the south of the United States. I think PG Stats made a video on them. They're like number 2. I think they got like 17th or something in Low Tide City. I don't remember who it is, but there are a couple of good Belmont players. But again, I just think they're inconsistent, and consistency at top level is very, very important. So it's hard to say like, oh, this character that can just die in a hit, yeah, they're good. It's hard to say, you know what I'm saying? Next up, we have Villager. Villager, better version of Isabelle, but still, in my opinion, not particularly good. You have a lot of good Villager reps. The ones that I think of immediately are Kept, of course, from Japan, and then Javi on Earth, who's been putting in work in the Florida scene and has done pretty well at some majors, especially CEO. He beat Goblin. But Villager has a decent amount of stuff. He can force approaches with side B. He has a decent recovery because he can also use a side B as like a protection type of thing. He can randomly get super big bursts of kills in terms of tree or bowling ball or axe. Of course, he has triple turnip. His edge guarding's pretty decent because his nair lingers forever and then can combo into forward air. Of course, he has the slingshots and all the good stuff about Isabelle that I mentioned before, but he also has an approach option and a better camping game because he can set up the side B. And again, bowling ball's broken, and tree is really, really stupid. You can get jab, not infinites, it does like 45 because eventually the tree disappears, but then you get tree combos, you get a different projectile. Of course, they both have pockets, so you can't really camp the character super well, or it's really risky to at the very least. So the character only really struggles with rushdown and heavy combo characters, in my opinion, or characters that are blatantly going to time them out. I actually don't know how Villager does versus Sonic. I would assume Sonic wins. This character has a lot of good stuff. It's just not as much good stuff as another character, basically. He's good, but he's just not as good as other characters. And that's kind of the theme of this tier, is like they're good, but just not as good. Next up, we have a character, ton of good options, but is just slightly lacking in cohesion, and that is Ridley. I think Ridley is terrifying to play in tournament. The fact that this character can just forward smash you, or back air you, or side B you at 80 and kill you is terrifying. You have a ton of Ridley players that are putting in work. You have, I always forget his name, oh my god. You have Vravis from Europe, who has recently taken a set from Gluto, Nair from Mexico, Smub, Kripuba from MDVA. There's a lot of Ridley reps actually very recently that are doing pretty well. But again, I do think this character just lacks cohesion. He is big, but not super heavy, so he doesn't get the benefit of living a long time. He has a weird recovery that is exploitable if you can get off stage before he uses his up B. Getting off of the ledge isn't super good because all he has is like side B, so if you just kind of stand at roll distance and then let him ledge jump, you can't really do anything about that. And then also he's not great at disadvantage. He has 2 jumps in the air, but they don't really go anywhere, and he doesn't really have a lot of good descending aerials other than back air, so you kind of just stay in front of him, and if he turns around his jump, you just run to the other side of him, and that it makes it more difficult for Ridley to land. So he can get hit really hard. He doesn't live super long, but his offense is amazing. He has some of the best normals in the game. His up smash is fantastic, so is his back air and his neutral air. I think that side B is a really good move to mix up a neutral because you have to shield from so many other things that Ridley has. But it's just like, he's playing his game, you hit him, you feel way more comfortable, and that isn't a good thing to have when you are trying to play a game where there are so many characters with amazing advantage states, and Ridley doesn't really have that amazing of an advantage state. He also has to get like a lot of raw kills. He doesn't really have kill confirms. He has like up tilt up air, but he also does have like really cheesy stuff like spikes with his up B, which I think Smub did that to Teaser to win their pool set, and Smub like, Teaser's really good, right? He's like wreaking havoc in the States currently. Smub beat him just by like, you're dead at 10, which is crazy to me. The character has a lot of good stuff, but just not enough good stuff and not consistent enough because of that bad disadvantage state. Speaking of inconsistent, you have a character that in theory, if their mechanics worked a little different, they'd probably be top tier, but they're not because the mechanics are bad, and that is Robin. I'm sorry, Synergy, I don't think this character is very good. This character, when they have all of their tools, is amazing. Well, they're still slow and there's still flaws with them, but if you constantly had fire and thunder and you couldn't run out of up B when you're off stage and you always had Levin Sword, this character's a threat. This character kills, it has combos, they have weak hit combos too, which can lead to more kills. Their edge trapping's pretty good. They're like really good if they have fire. They can camp, they can kind of have movement in the air to bait people to approach. Like their speed's not great, but they kind of make up for it for a lot of things. And then you lose fire, so you don't have the edge trapping, and you lose thunder, so you don't have the need to approach him, and they lose Levin Sword, which means that they can no longer kill with anything other than basically jab or the thunder, or like the level 2 thunder. That's not good, because what you can always do versus Robin is go, in my matchup with Robin, struggle to deal with one of these things. I am going to wait and play annoying and passive until they run out of that thing, and then fight them. For some characters, that's arc fire, because they don't want to get ledge trapped, so they just bait them and play mid-range, let them spam arc fire, because they're going to do that, and then there's no fire anymore, so then they're comfortable fighting, because even if they get hit, they're going to get put on the ledge and be fine. Some characters struggle to deal with thunder, so they jump over the thunders a bunch and make sure they're not in Levin Sword range, then they run out of thunder and then run at the Robin. Some characters, or every character basically, is scared of Levin Sword, so you play mid-range and make them swing with Levin Sword, then they don't have Levin Sword, and if you're at 110, 120, all you have to do is not be at the ledge specifically for 1, 2, 3 of the jab, and you're going to be fine. And that's really bad, or it doesn't allow Robin to be consistent, because all of your good tools can just be gone at any random moment in the game, which means that you are way less of a character. Bronze Sword, for all of Robin's moves, are bad. Levin Sword moves are broken, which is why I separate them in my tier lists when I make the move tier lists. By the way, if you haven't checked out my move tier lists, you should go check them out. They're up in the corner. It's just hard because like you can low profile sometimes the thunder, and like arc fire is slightly too reactable. But again, if they always had these options, it wouldn't be as much of a problem because you would always have Levin Sword, so you can just fight as a sword character that also has projectiles. But you can't do that because then you run out of sword and now you're no longer a threat, and every character will just be like, oh, they don't have Levin Sword, we're fighting, we're here, boom. Like you're fighting the Robin when they don't have Levin Sword. So yeah, it's a struggle. I think this character is good when they have their stuff, but if they don't, it's a struggle, and sometimes that just happens at really crucial moments in the games, which can lead to stocks, which can lead to games, which can lead to set losses. And that's why Robin's down here. This next character is probably the biggest demotion that I've had on my tier list since I understood the game, since like, let's say like 3.0. I'm gonna say like my early tier list where I was like, okay, Rool is top 7, or whatever I put him as, like that doesn't count. But like since like, let's say 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, this is the biggest demotion of a character. I used to put this character in borderline top tier, and now they are firmly in the bottom of mid, or like the low end of mid tier, and that is Ike. Ike is a better version of Bowser Jr. You know what they want to do, and they're going to do it. It doesn't matter what matchup you're playing. They're going to nair. They're going to jump and then nair. They're going to jump and then double jump and then nair. And that's all they're going to do. It is really good, but people are getting better at this game, able to parry, able to play mid-range against him. There are much better sword characters. There are much more threatening neutrals for sword characters, to the point where Ike isn't cutting it anymore. Does he have strengths? Yeah, he is so strong. Dash attack, forward tilt, back air, up air, nair into everything. His grab is good. He's a little hard to edge guard if he can side B. It's a little harder to edge guard him than, let's say, a Chrom with his up B because he throws the sword up. So like, he has good things about him. However, there are characters that have a lot, whereas Ike, you know he's going to nair, and then maybe at 80 they're going to play differently because they can down tilt, they can throw you off stage and eruption you, they can do all these things. But like 90% of the game is they're doing their one option, and that allows you a bunch of time to learn their timings, learn how their habits are working with the nair, get a parry, get a hit. His disadvantage state isn't super good because he cannot nair high to protect himself, kind of like K-Rool can, because if he does, he's gonna just be landing with nair the entire time, no hitbox, and then you're just gonna hit him for free. So he has to pick air dodge or hope they're not gonna jump at you and then late nair. And that's all he can do. And that's not good enough compared to the rest of the cast. Next up, we're going to go to the queen of space herself, Rosalina. I think DeBuzz underrates his characters all the time. Don't think he does with this one. They're just a better version of Ice Climbers because Rosa isn't as bad as Popo, but Rosalina Luma is maybe slightly worse than double Ice Climbers. This character loses half of their character and so much of their threat when you can kill Luma, and the problem is, even with the buff to Luma, because Luma got buffed and is harder to knock back, she's still easy to knock back. You can edge trap her and Luma dies. You can just hit her shields, take a back throw, and Luma dies. There are so many characters that can just deal with Luma incredibly easily. Does she have good matchups, even in relevant characters? Yeah, I think she does pretty good versus Game & Watch, pretty good versus Rob, although that's probably like even. Like Sonic, pretty good versus him. At the same time, all of those are predicated on the fact that you are playing like a god, and not even like, oh, you can just execute your combos. It's not about combos. It's about neutral and reads and conditioning and that type of stuff, which is way harder to do against a good opponents consistently. The fact that DeBuzz has had so much success with Rosalina and Luma proves that either one, people didn't know the matchup for a little bit. Oh, and two, DeBuzz is really good. DeBuzz is incredible at this game. He is so good. Rosa struggles with a lot of meta-relevant characters. I think struggles with Pichu and Joker and Pyramithra and Roy and Palutena and Steve. Maybe not Steve. There's a ton of characters that just go, oh, you're Rosalina and Luma? Cool. I don't care. Like Shulk, like Wario, I think, can do really well versus him. She doesn't even do well versus the zoners in this game because her down B is not super great. So she's just playing this awkward mid-range. If it's a character that you have to play mid-range, like Game & Watch, great versus him. But a lot of characters can just either barge their way in, camp better, or at the very least have a good enough punish game that do it, that Rosa being annoying for 30 seconds doesn't matter, and she's gonna die anyway, or Luma's gonna die and then she gets harassed for 12 seconds, 14 seconds until Luma comes back. Losing a big thing about your character and not gaining something is really bad in this game. So yeah. Next up we have the master of being good, and that's about it, and that is Pit. Honestly, I think Pit's really good. I think Pit low-key is like mid-high tier. I just think that more characters are more consistent at doing what is amazing about them, or have ridiculously strong strengths that people have to deal with just from the jump. Pit doesn't really have that. Pit has a good neutral. Pit's nair is one of the best nairs in the game. Combo game is actually pretty good. The problem is nair sends away at too high of a, or at like mid%, so you don't really get combos off it anymore, so it becomes just a move that you use in neutral that's pretty safe. Pit's advantage state is good, but it's not fantastic. He has a sword, but it's really laggy, like his up air and his forward air are a bit laggy, so if he misses, you're gonna get back to the ground. He has a decent recovery, because he has multiple jumps, and his up B goes really far, but it doesn't have a hitbox, so characters that can stay out there really give him a hard time. He can kill, but he's not amazing at killing, especially if you look out for down tilt. Down tilt's going to be his main kill confirm because he has down tilt into up air, and also he has grab 50/50s, especially if he grabs you at the ledge, because he can do forward throw or down throw. You DI'd in into up air, and if you DI out for the down throw and they forward throw, you die, because it does that. He has a lot of situationally really good stuff. He has some drag down stuff. He has really long combos. Raises Pit from Australia is fantastic. It's so good. However, he's just a little bit too hard and not good enough in my opinion. Next up, we have the second Mii of this list, and that's going to be Mii Gunner. I think Mii Gunner, low-key, super hard to deal with. The edge trapping of this character, the general camping of this character is really difficult to deal with. However, just like a bunch of other zoners that we've had so far, like Rosalina and Luma and Zelda, once you get in, this character can kind of struggle. She doesn't have good out of shield, or she doesn't really have good out of shield options. She doesn't have great get off me options. Even if it's Sans Undertale, that doesn't mean that he can gas or blast your way into winning a game. It's actually really hard to play this character. You have to consistently be keeping your opponent out, and that's really hard to do at top level because people are really good at getting in. Capitancito is amazing. He is such a good player. He did work at Smash World Tour South and Central America. Capitancito is the #2 player in Dominican Republic, I'm pretty sure, under Sonics, who's obviously fantastic. He has done a lot of work, and he almost beat Spargo. I'm pretty sure he beat a ton of good players at the Smash World Tour Central America, so this character can work and can do well. It's just hard to consistently do that over and over again at these majors, when a lot of these majors have a lot of players that are playing more consistent characters that can blow you up in advantage state and also camp and also do all these things, whereas Mii Gunner's a little bit of a one-trick pony, which is camping. Granted, the camping is very varied and difficult to deal with, and there's multiple setups, there's a lot of stuff to deal with, but you can eventually deal with it. Speaking of zoners that have a lot of different things, but you can eventually deal with it, we have Toon Link. I think Toon Link is really threatening. If you have a really strong sense of mid-range and neutral game with this character, it is really hard to deal with. You have a lot of Toon Links putting in work. Japan thinks Toon Link is broken, I'm pretty sure, because you have Rima and Sigma that do absolutely amazing work there. You have Jojo from the Pacific Northwest, who's a really good Toon Link. I don't know of any other ones that I can think of, but yeah, Toon Link has a decent amount of representation. This character is actually, unlike these other characters, consistency incarnate. Toon Link does the same thing with up tilts and forward tilts and bomb forward air and boomerang forward air and up air and all these things that are very consistent and very good, and it's the game plan that you know they're gonna have when they play this character. You know that they're gonna camp a little bit, you know they're gonna run away, you know they're gonna get their projectiles and then do big damage and then try to keep you on the ledge. That's what Toon Link is going to do every single time, and he's consistent. He doesn't have the explosive combos of a Young Link or a Link, but he's really consistent. The problem is he can't really deal with other people's explosive natures. His disadvantage state isn't super good. I mean, he can pluck bomb and throw it down and drift behind it, but it's a little slow to pluck bomb unless you're gonna waste your double jump to go higher to then pluck bomb to have bomb, but then you don't have a jump. So then if you get hit off stage, you're probably gonna die. He doesn't have the best recovery, although the bomb does blow up pretty quickly, so you can pull bomb and then double jump and then up B and then the bomb blows up and then you can up B again. But again, those are relying on people not knowing how to edgeguard you correctly, which I feel like at top level, a lot of people will just run off forward air. Even characters that don't want to edgeguard, like Roy, can just be run off forward air. Cloud can do run off forward air. So many characters can just be there and be annoying to deal with. Toon Link has a lot of amazing strengths, not gonna lie, and the ability to just kill at really early percents, especially because bomb items in general don't scale with rage, so it means if you have max rage, bomb at 80 still gonna send exactly where it would if you were at 0, but then you have max rage forward air. That kills really early, really early. Is a pretty strong character. He's just not as strong as some other characters, and that's why he's down here. Next character is overrated a bit. I think a lot of people think this character is actually really good, and honestly, they're getting decent results right now, so I cannot blame them, and that is Bayonetta. A lot of good stuff about her. Obviously, her combo game is amazing. She hits you once at 0, and you take, at minimum, even with good SDI, 40%. With not great SDI, or you're a decently big character, you're taking 80. This character has a lot of reps. You have Geist, I think he's Ohio, who recently beat Dark Wizzy and wins most of his regionals. Bloom from EU that's putting in work recently. I think they won a European regional, or a UK regional at the very least, with Bayo. Bayo is getting results now. Not as many as some other characters, but generally, Bayos are doing pretty well. However, I do think that people still don't really know this matchup because a lot of people are like, oh, it's not Smash 4 anymore, so I don't actually have to worry about knowing this matchup. But you still need to know your flowcharts, you still need to know her combos, you need to know what to avoid and when, and it's really important to. The problem with Bayo, she doesn't have good neutral. She's not out neutraling you for forever. She's hoping she gets the one hit. She's the opposite of, let's say, Mii Gunner, Pit, and Toon Link, right? She's like, I want to get the one hit and kill you. But the problem is, she doesn't kill you. If you miss those early stocks or you don't get a witch time at 80 or something like that, This character is some of the worst at killing in the entire game. The amount of times that I have played against Bayonettas with not just Pikachu, but mostly Pikachu, but like even with like Mii Brawler or like not edge guardable characters, but characters that can't really get out of the combo super well, I'm dying at 160 or 170, or I'm running into back air, which is my fault. Like they have to errantly back air you or like forward throw you, and that's basically going to be their main way to kill. I remember like when I play against Bayonetta players, and again, Pikachu wins the matchup pretty heavily, so this isn't like indicative of how she is, right? There are so many times that I will take 70 and I'll be down. It'll be like 70 to 20. I'll slowly get my way up. I'm at 100, they're at like 80. I'll get a kill with like a Nair down smash or something, and then the entire next stock they hit me like 4 times because they can't combo me anymore, and then I'm at 130, and then they're at 90 their next stock. And like the amount of times that I've been losing by like 100% first stock and then end up 3 stocking or like low percent 2 stocking a Bayo is ridiculous. And a lot of characters can do that. A lot of characters have better killing, equal, maybe not equal combos, but like very strong combos as well. She's very light, and she relies on not knowing how to advantage state her and keep, I mean, her like dive kick's really good. If you give her enough space, she's going to dive kick away from you, or ABK. ABK is a great option in general, but like if you just know the matchup and are okay with getting grabbed, this character could struggle a decent amount, and she's not good enough. Similarly, a character that has a lot of good setups and also can't kill unless you get the specific things is Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt has so many setups and so much camping and so much difficult stuff to deal with, and he also has good normals. Up tilt, forward tilt, you have back air, nair, like all the aerials are pretty good, except for like downers okay if you're not obviously like comboing into it. All the other normals are good. You have some of the best camping in the game. You have a frame 1 escape option in terms of can, which by the way I forgot to mention, Bayo has bats with him. Duck Hunt has a lot of stuff, but the problem is if you're not getting side B into back air, or side B into up air, or side B into down air, you're not really going to kill your opponent until like 140. Duck Hunt does not kill in this game, and giving characters rage in this game is terrifying because if they have rage, Duck Hunt's going to die at 70 or 80. I can't imagine playing Duck Hunt, putting in so much work and having all these traps and being so galactically sized brain, and then can't kill your opponent, and then a Roy jabs you at 60 at the ledge because you tried to overextend and get a kill, and then you got jab back aired at 60 and you die. That's gotta be really rough. And Duck Hunt, I feel like that happens a lot. I think that is the main reason that Raito doesn't play Duck Hunt as much anymore. But again, without him, you still have good reps. You have Wisdom from the US, big Duck Hunt fan who beat Spargo in a Wi-Fi tournament. Let's go. Duck Hunt has some decent reps, and of course Raito does still play Duck Hunt, but his results have dropped. There hasn't really been a resurgence of this character since the character started to kind of drop off. And again, I don't really consider results to be the end all and be all. It's just he's not consistent enough in killing, so which makes him not consistent. It gives characters rage, and rage characters in this game are absolutely terrifying. So you can't win like that. Next up, we have a character that has no problem killing, but in doing so, makes themselves easier to kill, and that is Pichu. Pichu is also a bit dropped from my last tier list, mostly because so many characters are getting good at killing. So many people's advantage states and combo games are getting good enough to the point where you hit Pichu once, and he is at death percent, because he is the lightest character in the game. That's not good. The fact that Pichu, when he is almost at death percent, let's say he's like 60%, he can no longer Thunder Jolt, he can no longer YOLO back airs and stuff like that, and hope to hit you, and if he doesn't, it's fine, because he's getting closer and closer to more things killing him, and that is a terrifying thought. Does he have one of the most explosive combo games in the game? Absolutely. If Pichu hits you, you are going for a ride. It is really hard to get out of Pichu combos. There's so many different variants, and the back air loops are crazy, and his nair is crazy, and he can spike you, and he has thunder, and down air's incredible. He has so many good normals. But 1, they're stubby. 2, he's susceptible to being camped because he can't camp back. The big difference between Pichu and Pikachu, obviously, there's a lot, but like the main one in terms of playstyle is the fact that Pika can camp and always get approaches with Thunder Jolt because there's no reason not to, unless you're specifically playing a matchup that T-Jolt's not very good. Pichu can't do that because then they just jump to a platform and then the T-Jolt goes away. And what happened is Pichu is now doing worse because he took damage, 0.4, 0.5, I think, something like that. So the more times he tries to approach or tries to camp because he's winning, the less he's winning by, which is really rough. Obviously, I think the design makes sense considering how strong some of his options are. Like, back air kills mad early. He has forward smash that is incredible. Down smash kills super early. Thunder, for him is super good because you can control which way it works. It's so good, even though sometimes Thunder is inconsistent. There are Pichus that have results. Neotono has been one of the best Pichus for a long time and continues to do well in Japan. Arfang, I think, quit for now or like doesn't play as much because he's doing medical school. And Void obviously plays Sheik, but there have been a lot of Pichus historically that have done well, even post-nerf. Mewtwo like wins Invitational still. I'm pretty sure he won an Invitational like a couple months ago, maybe like 3-4 months ago. This character has a lot of potential. It's just really hard to be consistent with a character that dies so early in a game where so many characters kill every character early, not even just Pichu, and then you have to add Pichu's weight to it so he dies at like 50 or 60. Speaking of characters that die like that, we have, in my opinion, still maybe a little bit too low for this character, but a character I have believed in for a very long time, and now their best player, Base Mage, is showing off why they're super good, and that is Jigglypuff. Puff is one of the scariest characters for most people to fight in this game. Puff has some of the most explosive edge guarding in the game, probably the second or third best edge guarding overall in the game. Her nair is amazing, her forward air is amazing. She has so many flowcharts that are absolutely incredible. Her combo game, she does so much damage. This character has been buffed so many times over the course of this game. Jab is a fantastic move, dash attack is really good, forward air is really good, down air is incredible, forward throw is one of the best throws in the game. Everything this character, like this style of character can have, they get except for throw combos. If they had like a single throw combo, even like down throw to up air at like low percents, like that I feel like would change a lot for this character. Still very good, very threatening. You saw that Base Mage can take games from top players and beat a bunch of top players. Base Mage's like resume at this point for the wins that he has are incredible. And again, results don't necessarily mean everything, but the problem is everyone was like, oh, this character can't beat all these characters, and then Base Mage's like, actually these matchups aren't that bad. You're like, you can definitely win all these matchups as Puff, and then everyone was like, yeah, okay, that's not true, and then he does it. And if your matchup chart's good in this game, that means you have a good shot at doing well in a tournament. There's still big struggle matchups like Ike and Yoshi. I thought Samus was an awful matchup, and then I played Base Mage as Samus, and granted my Samus is not as good as his Puff, so that makes sense, and it was really hard. And like, I definitely think this character has a lot of surprisingly good matchups in the top tier. Has taken plenty of players to game 5 as well. I think like Snake destroys Puff, and Base Mage MVD was game 5. Even if in theory the matchups are bad, you can't have bad matchups in a character that has explosive edge guards and explosive combos and rest. You cannot say you lose a matchup -3 when you can just combo your opponent into rest. And that's something that we'll see a lot in the higher tiers of just like, oh yeah, in theory they lose these matchups, but then they get the hit and kill you. Puff is one of those characters. She's just harder to get in with, and the strengths are a little bit less obvious than some of these other characters. But Puff, amazing in my opinion. We have a character that has better limit, kind of, and that is Wii Fit Trainer. Wii Fit Trainer is also a bit of a demotion for my last tier list. I just think Wii Fit kind of has a weird place in this meta right now because a lot of zoners are doing really well, but she doesn't really beat the zoner super hard. Rushdown characters are doing really well. She doesn't really beat Rushdown characters super hard. A lot of beating people with Wii Fit Trainer is either one, really slow mid-range awkward characters like people that lose to camping. She can do pretty well in those matchups, and then people that just get aggressive. Like it's a player thing of like, oh, you got aggressive, you got hit by this side B. Oh, you don't know how to deal with the volleyball super well. Oh, you're gonna get hit by a ton this game. She has deep breathing, which is a crazy buff. You can get it multiple times a game. She heals. When she gets the hits that she needs, you explode. She has one of the best up smashes in the game, in my opinion. It's super fast, it's invincible. She has a lot of good stuff. The problem is, she's a little awkward. She can't really deal with short characters, and short characters are kind of meta. I feel like she can't really deal with sword characters super well. I don't think her whiff punishing is really good. She has dash attack, sure, but like dash attack is a little bit too stubby for it to be like a really good move. She doesn't get like a ton of momentum like, let's say, like a Mii Brawler does or something like that, and that's just a random example. There's plenty of characters that have good dash attacks like that. She's kind of in this awkward ground of just like, can kind of camp but not incredibly well, can kind of press buttons at you but not incredibly well or incredibly safely. So she's kind of like playing mid-ranges against characters that have better mid-ranges, and camping against characters that have better camp games, and being aggressive against characters that have better aggressive games or better out of shield options, because she also doesn't really have good out of shield options. She's exploitable off stage if you know how to deal with side B, or she's exploitable at ledge trapping her if you, again, respect the side B. Like, you just have to like not be an asshole when you play against her. Like, don't play like she's a bad character, because if you do, she will blow you up. If you respect her the way she needs to be respected, it's a struggle. A similarly colored character is next, and one of the characters that might go up as Slingshot kind of gets developed more, Mewtwo. His stuff just doesn't coalesce into a kit, and he's inconsistent, not because of his tail, although tail is a thing, mostly because of his size and his weight. He has a Ridley factor, right? Of like, he's big, but he doesn't really have the weight to back it up, so he gets comboed really hard, but doesn't live for a very long time, so he takes a ton of damage, and then like a higher percentage of his stock is now gone. Shadow Ball is amazing. Charge shots in this game in general are very, very good. He has really good normals. He has forward air, which was one of the best forward airs in the game. Nair is good. His tail moves like up air and back air are pretty solid. His spike is okay. He has side B, which is amazing. He has great explosive reads in terms of with down B, and then his smash attacks are all incredibly strong. The problem is, it doesn't coalesce into an easy to use kit. His combo combos are a little bit okay. Like he has like Shadow Ball into down tilt up air, and that's kind of it. He has really particular combos with like IDJ up airs into forward airs and stuff like that, but it's not gonna hit as often as you would like. So a lot of characters, because of the fact that Mewtwo just dies really early, he kind of just struggles. He has like one layer of really good, whereas a lot of high tiers and top tiers have 2 layers of the same things that are really good. Like his ledge trapping, Shadow Ball is so scary. Shadow Ball, side B forward air, ledge trapping is really, really good, but he doesn't have a way to get you off the ledge. He doesn't have a way to meaty the neutral get up as well as having charge shot. You know what I'm saying? Like Samus does. She has bomb into charge shot, whereas Mewtwo just has to go charge shot. I hope this hits. And if you miss, then you don't have the charge shot anymore. You're now not threatening. Whereas Samus, like bomb hits you if you hold ledge for too long. She can continually bomb, then charge shot. Mewtwo has great aerials, great mobility. I think slingshot is actually pretty good for this character, mostly for safety purposes, because you can nair and then slingshot away, so your backdash isn't going to affect you, because that's where tail actually is a big deal. One of the most underrated problems with Mewtwo is sometimes in this game, like you get hit facing towards your opponent, and then sometimes when you get hit, you face away from your opponent. And that can happen, and that has huge differences, because obviously if you're facing away from your opponent, tail's there, and then you have to do something like side B or Shadow Ball to turn around, or like back air. But again, you're gonna have a higher range of threat than a lot of characters have. Some characters have good tumble animations of like, oh, it's good when they fall this other way. Like it's better than the normal, whereas Mewtwo's is worse than the normal. So having random points like that against you, to me, are gonna make you mid-tier. His mobility is amazing. He has a lot of good stuff. He doesn't coalesce into a kit as well as some of the other characters in high tier, and he doesn't have such overwhelming strengths as some of the other characters in high tier and top tier, basically. The last character in mid tier is a character that, honestly, I'm probably underrating. This character has some of the highest peak potential in this game, but so far, we have seen it not enough, not in terms of results, but just it's really hard to be consistent with this character, and that is Lucas. Lucas is fast. Lucas has great air mobility, has amazing normals, has some of the safest moves in the entire game, has good combos, has Zair, which can just string you across the stage if you can just link Zair over and over again. He has an infinite. Character is really hard. He is one of the highest, if not the highest APM, which is actions per minute character in the game. He can do so much stuff. He has to do so much stuff when other characters can just forward air or just neutral air. Is it really good when it's working? Can you outplay your opponent? Does he have all the tools necessary in order to beat most opponents? Yeah, but then you run into like a Min Min or a Steve or a Palutena, or someone that can just do as much as you with way less effort, so they can put all of their mental energy into playing the game as opposed to pressing buttons. Obviously, I'm saying that as someone that is like, oh, well, like difficulty doesn't honestly matter that much. If you mess up a Zair combo, it's not like you mess up a combo and you go, okay, I'm still in advantage. If you mess up a Zair combo and you do double jump Zair up into the skies, you no longer have your double jump. You're going to get hit. Your recovery is more exploitable. Your disadvantage is more exploitable. Speaking of disadvantage, his disadvantage kind of sucks. If you don't have the ability as Lucas to get down and like move your like air mobility your way away from someone and forward air your landing, you're not really going to have good landing tools. It's really hard to deal with people that are just jumping up and hitting you because he's super floaty, so his fast fall air dodge isn't really that good. So people can jump at Lucas, bait him to do something, and then hit him for it. Or he does nothing and then they hit him for it anyway. Capitalizing on Lucas's disadvantage is honestly the most important thing about learning the Lucas matchup and learning that his moves are broken. So you have to make sure not to be super aggressive. I think he has one of the best forward tilts in the game. He has one of the best forward airs in the game. He has a reflector, he has a magnet, he has Zair. He has so many good things about him. If you want to put him in high tier, I understand, especially Ninetox has been doing pretty well recently, but there's just a little too much struggle for this character in my opinion, and a little bit too difficult consistently to beat all the characters that you could in theory. In theory, he's probably like top 20, top 25, but right now, this can change after the summer of Smash. Maybe I'll reevaluate and do another tier list, but for right now, he's gonna be at the top of mid tier, which is kind of where he's always been for me. He's an incredible character though. He's super, super strong. And yeah, that's going to be about it for this one. Did you enjoy the list? What character do you think is missing? Because when I did this live, before I had to re-record it, people were surprised that I had not named a specific character yet, wink. So yeah, what did you think about this tier list? Let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the rest of the videos in this playlist, and I'll see you all next time.
Pikachu, busted.